The Eurozone has officially entered a recession, and this is coming after they continuously told you not to worry about it. Here you can see Christine Lagarde's quote saying, "No Eurozone country to be in a recession in 2023. Whilst that is pretty crazy on its own, you've got to realize that the next week is going to make all of this 10 times worse. We've got the inflation numbers in the US coming up. We've got the interest rate decision in the US coming up, the special FOMC meeting, but also the ECB's interest rate decision. So that's about to be wild. Now, at the same time, everybody, literally everybody in the crypto community is talking still about the SEC, Gary Gensler, the Ripple case, the fact that Robinhood is delisting cryptos, and everything that lawyers are thinking is just going absolutely insane over on Twitter. And one thing that I think was very peculiar was how Ripple is perceived in all of this. I have already described over the last couple of days that I've turned extremely bullish on XRP, and I'll be doing a special video in a couple of hours from now explaining some thoughts about XRP specifically and talking about some new advancements, some new price ideas. So make sure you tune in for that. And also, before I forget, guys, make sure you press that like button. Every single one of the last videos has been hitting like 700-800 likes. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes on this video. If it's possible, I'm gonna jump off my balcony. I'm not sure why I said that. I will not do that. Sometimes I guess I get carried away a little. Anyway, Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, said it's embarrassing to watch an unelected bureaucrat flail like this to mask the fact that he and his agency don't have the power that he so desperately craves. No one is fooled. If it wasn't already clear, it should be now that Chair Gensler's laughable pro-innovation stance, as he said today, is exactly the opposite. What this also tells me is that the SEC is throwing lawsuits at the wall and hoping they distract from the agency's FTX debacle. And Bill Morgan, a lawyer, says, not the words of a man expecting a bad outcome in a lawsuit brought against him by the SEC. And that is absolutely correct. This does not sound like a crying dog, and it very well might be that Brad Garlinghouse is anticipating that since the William Hinman documents, these internal SEC documents, are going to be coming out June 12th, June 13th, something like that. It's going to be a bit of a bombshell, so to speak. And he's already like trash talking in anticipation of what's about to come. And on another note, one thing many of you guys have not realized just quite yet is how big of a deal the SEC's war on crypto is. In an earlier video today, I described to you guys the war has started. It has, that's almost a fact. No, I wouldn't even want to say almost. It's a fact. The war on crypto started a while ago, but they have escalated it to a very heavy extent. Now, the repercussions for this, though, are also going to be quite severe for the SEC and specifically for Chair Gensler. One of the things that's going to happen is he will probably be summoned in front of Congress again and asked some questions, like we've already been anticipating because of this little tumble with the fact that Coinbase wanted to sit down and discuss the rules if they weren't there, make rules, and the SEC ignored them for about a year and then decided to sue Coinbase. But here's Meta Lawman, also a lawyer, stating, I would suggest that Gary Gensler block some time on his calendar to sit for depositions for the next decade. I have never seen an SEC chair this mixed up in the underlying facts of cases brought by the SEC, nothing close, because Gensler was also involved, at least trying to be an advisor for Binance a couple of years ago, and did give them some guidance, reportedly. But as I read earlier, even different senators are saying, hey, get Chair Gensler in front of Congress. And getting back to Brad's tweet, it's probably just that this man is very hungry for power and control. Maybe he got bullied as a kid. Maybe he never got as far in his career as he wanted to. It's not money that he's craving, it's control. At least that's what it seems like. Perhaps, and this is just my own theory, he was teaching blockchain at MIT. He was for Algorand, basically. He wasn't really saying every crypto is a security back then. He was against some concepts like ICOs, etc., but I can more understand that. Perhaps he really wanted to get himself a leading position at one of these major firms, like an advisor to Binance, an advisor here, there. only see that the moment that those platforms inevitably get sued, and then the documents might reveal what position he was applying on those for. But if you guys remember this article, this is from about 2 years ago, ex-OCC Office of the Comptroller of the Currency Chief Brooks joined Binance as a CEO. Now, this is a letter of his resignation, whatever. But perhaps that could have been similar to Gary Gensler. And the fact that he eventually did not end up in one of those positions at Binance or any other exchange potentially led him to go down some sort of war path. Again, I'm not 1,000% sure, but it's worth speculating. On a side note, I cannot confirm this. People have said that the Coinbase CEO is selling shares on a time plan, basically. So every X amount of time, he sells a bunch of shares, which I think is pre-designed. And apparently, he sold 30,000 shares on June 5th, just a day before the SEC lawsuit was made public, and the shares tanked, 20% throughout the next day. Again, you can see people here saying he's on a selling program. It needs to be scheduled in advance, but still, it's quite peculiar that it's the day after that this happens. Again, I don't have a source for this. I don't necessarily trust articles with information like this either. The article itself states that a lot was also sold just before the SEC sent them a warning, but perhaps it's just a coincidence and he sells ridiculously often. Could very well be so as well. Anyway, at the same time, we've also got the Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson saying and actually warning that this SEC lawsuit against Binance is part of a crypto suppression effort and says the end goal is a CBDC. Now, some people might be quick to point out to say he is biased because obviously this entire lawsuit is also against ADA. In both the Binance and the Coinbase lawsuit, they're going after Cardano, so obviously he's not too happy. I accidentally did not follow Miles, my bad. Anyway, at the same time, Robinhood, because they were afraid, also quickly delisted Cardano, and now to kind of save themselves, I think, but also it's the right thing to do, they just ignore things and just keep building. Cardano Project Catalyst unveils 50 million ADA funding for builders and innovators. Anyway, Hoskinson says the primary reason the SEC filed the lawsuit against Binance is to pave the way for a CBDC. Quote, with respect to Binance, I'm reading through the SEC complaint. It's over 130 pages, but seems like the next in a series of steps to implement Chokepoint 2.0 in the US. The end goal is an agenda-based CBDC partnered with a handful of massive banks and end-to-end control over every aspect of your financial life. He says the SEC is already exercising too much authority in imposing how people should own and control their funds. Quote, an unelected group of people have decided that concepts like self-sovereign identity, owning your wallet, and the freedom to control your economic agency should be removed from the masses and given to an enlightened few. But Hoskinson remains optimistic. He says crypto stakeholders can work together towards shared objectives in the industry. Again, I quote, it does seem like this event is a perfect opportunity for the entire industry to set aside its fragmented nature and unite for a common sense set of rules and guidelines that can prevent the United States from slipping into a dystopia that would make 1984 look like a vacation. We're going to be fine, everything's all right, and the future is bright for the industry. I mean, perhaps Gary Gensler was given a mission. Since the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, and China are all coming together to basically get rid of the reliance on the US dollar, that perhaps internally over in the United States, and this is actually happening for the EU and I guess UK and then Australia as well with the way the banks operate, but perhaps he's just been given the task, make sure that people have the hardest time ever to get into crypto, to sell their dollars, our nation's currency, for a currency that the people control. Keep them in our system for as long as possible. Take a look at this article. The de-dollarization now evident as central banks' US dollar reserves drop to record lows by JP Morgan. And also take a look at this. Robert Kiyosaki warns of the greatest real estate crash ever, urges people to buy Bitcoin. And again, to let it kind of sink in for yourself, I want to refer back to Lagarde, who kept stating before, no recession in 2023, it ain't gonna happen, but the Eurozone has officially entered into a recession. Expect the unexpected, or rather, don't think that they couldn't just lie straight in your face by saying, no, we're doing this to protect you. You know, we want a healthy economy where everybody can participate. Well, at the end of the day, only wanting to control you and to make money on you and to keep your money which should be between asterisks there, your money, your money, in their control and their system. Now, let me say in the midst, I don't think Coinbase nor Binance nor any one of these players, Ripple, Cardano, whatever, is completely in the clear. And what I mean with that is they probably, with they I mean the SEC, will be able to find something that they did wrong, following the rules that they've set. But if they were being real human beings, not like freaking computers, they would have been like, okay, but we understand that it's nearly impossible to do it exactly right because we've not laid everything out. But the fact that they're not doing that, the fact the SEC is so purposefully trying to walk around ever setting some rules down is making it too obvious that this is some sort of bigger game plan, either for power, either for control, maybe to roll out the CBDC, maybe to prevent some other countries like China or Russia getting too much power for this crypto adoption. As a side note, like I've said, the crypto community will keep building. Cardano, you just saw a little bit of, I guess, a grand situation where they're just going to be paying out a lot of Cardano to let people build. But even with XRP, I'm going to cover XRP in another video coming out later tonight. I'm going to dive a little bit into things that are happening right now and the reason I'm buying so much of it. I know it's insane. I'm buying too much. It's unhealthy, but I just think it's the right choice for me. Wietsewind, one of the best developers out there for the XP Ledger, it just hits me that it feels like this is the most exciting time for the XRP Ledger and XRP Ledger protocol since I joined the XRPL ecosystem. And when he says that, I believe him. And I respect his opinion and I listen carefully. And I also will keep saying, if you do not have your notification bell on, you're missing out. Because what if something crazy happens? You need to be notified. You can always decide to skip the notification, but you need to be notified. So make sure you put it to notifications on. And as a side note, if you're wondering what's happening with the crypto prices, we're playing a little game of moving averages. The yellow line is the 200 weekly moving average. The blue line is the 200 daily moving average. And you can just see nearly how perfectly Bitcoin is trading around these levels. We tried to bounce back time and time again, had one break of the 200 weekly moving average, bounced from the 200 daily moving average though, and right now are trading slightly above the 200 weekly moving average. Again, probably this had to do with the Binance lawsuit, the fact that the price came right back down, and then this wave of optimism and people noticing we don't care about the SEC's actions took it back up, before people sensing the weakness and trying to retest that line. And right now we're basically finding our ground. If you didn't believe me earlier, by the way, take a look at this. Wells Fargo limiting customers' cash withdrawals to $1,000 due to emergency conditions. The banks are running out of money. Not your keys, not your coins. Hashtag Bitcoin. Just want to kind of leave this here for a lot of you guys to think about. On the side, I know I've been putting a lot of side notes in. There's a guy, David Bailey, who said, major custodian about to declare bankruptcy without last-minute bailout. Take your Bitcoin off exchanges, even Bitcoin-only platforms. And there's a guy from Swan.com whose withdrawals and potentially deposits were locked for a good while. He said, all Swan Bitcoin clients, BTC and USD, are custodied with Fortress, legal custody, yada yada, and BitGo. As always, we recommend self-custody, and we have free automatic withdrawals, even though it was locked for a while. But people are talking about I'm not sure why nobody's saying the name. So, and the situation is basically, it's rumored that Prime Trust is collapsing and Swan at the same time had their withdrawals frozen, even though they were warned about Prime Trust before. However, Swan did now switch their custodian, which was posted a couple of hours ago. However, as we see here, founder of Prime Trust, went into bank and then into Fortress. So, I mean, he kind of switched from one evil to another, so to speak. And if you're wondering, again, a lot of it has to do with the new lawsuits that have come out. Here, for example, a couple months ago, this is worth recalling in light of Perry Capital's scoop that Binance US is banking with I'm a little bit stupid, yes. SBNY via Prime Trust, there we go. Allegedly, they had tens of millions of dollars for FZF and now hold it for Binance, yada, yada, yada. There's just been a lot of FUD regarding Prime Trust for a long time, but a lot of the industry used to rely on it, which potentially now is changing. And also, a good question to ask yourself is, where is the end? I know that's too deep of a question as a concept, but I mean, which exchange is going to be next? What crypto is going to be next on the SEC's chopping block? Because I don't expect this to end anytime soon. Nothing is indicating that the SEC has had enough. The only thing I'm thinking is perhaps, as I've stated a couple of times before, they're like done with Ripple, so now they're like, okay, let's try some new ones, and potentially they've got themselves, enough hands on Binance and Coinbase. But I'm thinking, as you're going for one exchange, why not swoop them all? So potentially more exchange lawsuits coming up. Something interesting to think about, but I think that's enough for one video. Again, we've got a crazy, interesting video coming up later today regarding XRP. And as I've said before, many times, I always look at all the news. For example, this whole Coinbase selling situation, I'm investigating whether or not we can find anything else behind it. There are always crazy whale transfers. For example, here, somebody transferring $40 million worth of Bitcoin he has held for the last 10 years. Does he know something in the market that we do not? Or for example, the fact that this just happened. Read what Twitter posted due to readers' input. Decentralized justice works. That's after Gary Gensler said, Coinbase's alleged failures deprive investors of critical protections, including rulebooks that prevent fraud and manipulation, proper disclosure, safeguards against conflict of interest, and routine inspection by the SEC, which, conflict of interest is really funny. Readers added context saying, Coinbase has repeatedly attempted to get guidance and include the SEC. Recently, Coinbase has had to sue the SEC to attempt to get simple clarity over the issues that the tweet alleges. Let's quickly press that away. Alleges Coinbase is guilty of, with some articles mentioned. Is this note helpful? Yes. And again, that rabbit hole is also pretty damn deep. But as I said, that's enough for one video. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. Make sure you put that notification bell on and see you guys later tonight in another video.